the new reforms the government is bringing in. So all in all, I think it's a good note for the industry.
Okay, sounding positive over there. Hi, Mr. Baid. This is Snehi also joining in. Good morning. Give us your sense on what this does to your own launch pipeline now that the approval will start coming in faster. Does that accelerate your launch pipeline? Are we looking at launching more than 35 new products this financial year?
See, currently we have a lot of products under development. We are almost developing over 100 products right now, which is over next 3 years. So I think for this year, we have already called out around between 30, 35 products. Hopefully, we'll be able to squeeze in a couple of more products or a little bit more than that. But let's see how it goes because development pipeline needs its own time. We need to also do some clinical trials before we put the products in the market. So we are working on it, but I think it's good news for long run.
Okay, bullish in the long run, but can you quantify the benefit if you can put some numbers into perspective for us?
See, I think maybe we'll, as I said, we'll squeeze in maybe an additional three, four new products because the timeline will shorten up for going to the market. So I think that's what I can say right now. It's too early to call.
Okay, understood. And going ahead also, we've spoken about limited domestic competition in the renal care space despite an open market. Do you believe that this faster approval now lowers the barriers to entry and perhaps increases your competition?
Well, I don't think so. I think it'll happen in every business. I think in medtech space. So I think that's not the point here. I think the important point here is I think government was able to hear our request regarding anti-dumping investigation for the renal business. I think they've opened it already against China and Malaysia, recently announced, and I think there was a long standing demand from the industry that there was a dumping happening from the companies out of Malaysia and China, and most of these companies in Malaysia have Chinese origin. So I think that was actually hurting the industry. And hopefully, if this investigation, goes successfully, I think then we'll see, at least, some breathing space for the industry.
Okay, let's also talk about your guidance. And I understand you can't talk about the first quarter in particular, but at the end of last quarter, you did tell your investors that you're aiming for about 23 to 28% growth on the top line. Consolidated revenue guidance stood at about 2,300 to 2,400 crore. For the full year, does that remain intact, or would you like to revise your guidance based on the developments that have happened in the first quarter of FY27 so far?
No, I think the guidance was pretty wide, 2,300 to 2,400 crores. So I think we stick to the guidance. And so this is a significant growth over last year, where we didn't grow as much as we had planned. So, this year, our domestic business should grow over north of 20% plus, and export business should also hit, 15 to 16% plus growth rate, or maybe even higher, depending how the things pan out globally. So I think we are very bullish on what's happening in India as well as outside India. So we'll stick to the current guideline, what we have guidance we have given for 2,300, 2,400 crores.
Okay, understood. So sticking to the initial guidance for this financial year, also help us understand, we've earlier spoken about how the US has always historically seen faster approvals versus India, and that has made them a very highly competitive market when it comes to exports. Now that Indian companies have also got this approval from the government, faster licensing is what I mean. Do you believe this is going to improve the competitiveness that India has when it comes to global exports in your categories?
See, again, exports depend on the importing country, their regulatory landscape. So, fortunately, I think Europe is in a very tight spot, and because of the transition from MDD to MDR, and it's taking much longer to enter in the European markets as compared to, let's say last 4 5 years. So I think that is kind of challenging. But US, again, US FDA, there has been some changes there because the US FDA were not accepting the test lab results, biocompatibility studies from India, and that led to some delay in filing for new products. And now most of the companies have to go to ASCA-approved labs in the US to get the product tested, and that has taken some extra time to launch the products in the US market. But I think things are getting more clearer now, and hopefully next 3 4 years will be very solid for the Indian medtech industry.
Okay, and what about margin pressure as a result of surge in crude oil prices and the fact that crude oil derivative prices also rose? I believe that is likely to hurt your margins in first and second quarter. Am I getting it right?
We have guided already that we should be between 25 to 27% EBITDA margin for the whole year. And I think even in the first quarter, we should be in that range only. And on the console basis, yes, it should be a little lower because of our international subsidiaries working at lower EBITDA margin, so which is between 23 and 25%. But overall, I think we were able to pass on certain costs to customers in quarter one and quarter two also. I think that will happen. And fortunately, crude prices have started coming down. So hopefully that pressure will come off the table.
Okay, so that's your outlook when it's related to crude-related costs. But also, can you give us an outlook on how are you looking at inorganic growth if you're considering acquisitions, anything in the offing?
See, we have done two last year, and I think we're
Yeah.
trying to absorb them, and I think it's going to take a while to set them up and get them to higher operating margins. We are on a lookout, but of course, anything which is around technology space, especially in cardiology, renal, or critical care, will figure out. But nothing on the cards right now. If there's anything else, I'll definitely let you know.
How has demand from Europe and US been? Has there been any impact of geopolitical crisis either on logistics or otherwise on demand per se?
See, I think the biggest challenge is logistic right now because many ships have been not been calling on Indian ports, and the containers are missing the delivery schedules. I think that's a larger concern, and I think there I need government intervention, that if the shipping can be improved out of India, because that is the current challenge our customers face globally. And the freight rates have gone up also recent past. But hopefully with the crisis in Middle East, kind of getting resolved or on the verge of getting resolved, I think things will start to cool down. But currently, yes, situation is very tough for exports.
Okay, and Mr. Baid, what about higher value therapies? They're steadily gaining share. Can you give us a sense of what your mix is going to look like going ahead?
See, I think we'll stick to our core business of infusion and vascular access, which is still going to contribute over around 50-55% of revenue. But I think cardiology, critical care will start more traction as we have a higher gross margin on those kind of product ranges. So we are working on those businesses. Just started 12 to 16 months ago, these new businesses. But hopefully next 3-4 years they'll become significant and start contributing to more margin.
What will that target margin profile be over the period of next 3 to 4 years, if you can give a number?
See, currently we are operating around, say, 66 to 68% gross margin, and typically would like to move to around 68 to 70% gross margin in next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so that's the outlook going ahead. Mr. Baid, so good to be speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We are just highlighting